We got two parts to hear what we'll talk about. One is the question on how my clinical philosophy has evolved. And that is a very interesting thing because I think that phrase or that terminology is probably used a lot. And I'm actually going to answer it very, very specifically because evolution is a path of change that is forced upon you in order to survive. It's not just something that just happened. In fact, I would say that there's two ways to change. You evolve or you revolve. Revolution. That is something that you want to do, but you don't necessarily have to. You're not necessarily forced to do it. Evolution, you are 100% forced to do it, or in theory, you die. Some of the things that I think are more paramount, maybe over the last few years, that I would consider evolution. I think the moment that I have talked about quite a bit would be a gentleman that he's a young guy, he's had multiple knee surgeries. He will be looking at multiple replacements. I think he's got like at least 3 or 4 surgeries of different type, probably 32 years old. We didn't get the best communication from the surgeon. What did he do? Like, what is going on here? Because his quad wasn't coming back nearly as much as we would hope. It just, things weren't going right. This was going to turn into a failure and maybe expedite the next surgery that hopefully he won't need. And because of maybe a lot of the personal influences and exposures to different things that I've had recently, meaning the last several years, the question I asked him, I said, insert name, how much protein do you eat? And of course, given his body type, kind of culture, if you will, he didn't have not enough. And I'm like, we could be picking the best exercises on earth. You could be picking the best rep schemes. You could be busting your ass. But the only way this muscle is ever going to get bigger is if it has the raw materials to do so. And those raw materials are protein. And quite frankly, if you don't eat enough in general, and most people, there's probably, just flip a coin, there's people that don't get enough protein that have enormous amount of calories. They just eat like poo. And then there's other people that don't get enough protein that have well below calories just because they don't eat enough in general. That's probably where this guy was, because if you don't have enough energy to start to even train with high intensity, you have the propensity to pull protein from other areas. Maybe that's why you get sick. Maybe that's why other things start to happen. I would be comfortable applying evolution to this scenario simply because I was forced to actually answer, why was this not happening? Why was we not succeeding? Why were we not improving? Otherwise, it wasn't going to happen. And I think that happens far, far too much, especially in garbage commercial therapy, where I'm at the point now where I would say I have no idea how to separate any type of, call it expert advice or expert intervention, where it used to be T equals R, training and rehab, but I don't know how nutrition can be separate from that. And if you need 3 different people to put their heads together to get to that answer, then that's fine. I don't think you need to, I'll stick with the plan too. I don't care what your degree is. You are allowed to know information. Just because you're not a registered dietitian doesn't mean it's impossible for you to know things. Do you know as much? Sometimes you might, because nutrition is somewhat unregulated, just like rehab. That's why there's a lot of brilliant rehab individuals that aren't physical therapists, et cetera, all different combinations. But I would say my recognition of the importance of nutrition is a significant evolutionary component to my philosophy. I think that would probably extend, maybe with less dramatic storytelling, of the 6 buckets that you've seen on the model, the clinical model. It would be medical, fitness, so there's training, rehab, but of course medical involves a number of other things that also bleed into other things. So medical would be your physical therapy, your chiropractic, but also you need a medical approach to draw blood to make great decisions about perhaps nutrition and or supplementation. Surgery absolutely must be fit into that. There's this natural evolution that wasn't like just smacked in your face that 2 alpha gorillas are going to fight to see who becomes the leader of the, are they called packs in gorillas? I don't know. Medical, fitness, nutrition, sleep, psychology, load management. And on the slide, they're looked at as buckets because you're meant to reach in, and there's a lot of different things that you can pull out of those buckets that would fit into those categories that then should speak correctly to what your tests of movement output readiness and sensory systems would be telling you. And of course, how you populate those could be millions of different ways. So I think when you find exposures to other people that think the same but probably have different skill sets, that pushes this very, very positive type of evolution. Maybe the other question that maybe is tied into that is, if we take 10 years ago, what would be something that I would wildly disagree with? And I don't really know anymore where 10 years is, because COVID time changes the calendar of memory, where we lost, however many years there. But clearly there would be things that I know I would have said a long time ago that I would say completely differently. I think training on machines is a totally good thing to do. It's a necessary thing to do for so many victories, whereas before I would say never do that. I still don't think if someone can't move in a particular way that is very much tied to their health and wellness, etc., that training on machines is clearly not the answer, but it shouldn't be. That's like judging the machines to be something that they're not going to do. I would much rather take somebody that has zero training age and all sorts of movement challenges and characteristics to how they move that are not ideal for other types of movement. No, they shouldn't be on machines, but machines aren't bad. I started traveling and doing knee extensions, my knees didn't hurt. Okay, well, hey, this was a little interesting hallmark moment. I used to say something to the effect of train slow, be slow. False. Slow is all relative. You have a particular distance or a particular adaptation that you're trying to pull. Sometimes slow is incredibly ideal, incredibly efficient and proper. Those two things definitely come to mind as, a long time ago I would have a very different view and probably much more linear and inappropriate. I believed what I believe. When I look back, I think the biggest things would be some of the social decisions that I've made, where I'm going to get into the specifics of it because it's not really the spirit of the question, but as it relates to those but others, I would always say I would have done the exact same thing back then. I just would do it different now because I'm different now. And that's not to hide from maybe mistakes or things that I regret. It's just how it works. I would do it 100% the same way, but I wouldn't do it that way today.